situation, yes, as an opportunity to reveal the goodness of God, because the goodness of God doesn't change because of my bad circumstances. He's still a good God regardless of my bad circumstances. That's why I can praise the Lord at all times, because His goodness is good at all times. Paul's attitude is that though I am bleeding, I'm not going to stop leading. Yes, though I am bleeding right here, yes, I'm not going to stop giving. Yes, though I am bleeding in jail, surrounded by maconzos and rats, I'm not going to stop giving God all of the praise. Though my wounds and my chains are telling me I'm going to die, I'm not going to allow these things to stop me, yes, from using my gift to finish everything that I've started. Look at your neighbor and say, I will finish. I will finish. Shout, I will finish. Just hold on. Just hold on the keyboard there. So he says, I thank God for you. Why? For your fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now. He's telling them something powerful, yes. While he's in jail, every time he thinks of them, he gets inspired to go on, yes. He says, I think of you while I'm in jail. Oh, I feel God in here. You have to make up your mind to be an inspiration, yes, because there are people going through jail, yes, and when they think of you, they have to gain strength. Yes. So when you're going through hell, you can't be crying and depressed. Yes. You cannot be discouraged, because you have to be a beacon of hope to, yes, others. That when I think of System Paul, I get up and stop feeling sorry for myself, and I begin to push for my breakthrough. Yes. And it was the one thing he loved about the Philippian church. He says that you have sustained the fellowship of the gospel from the first day I was there years ago until now. Oh yes, this is why Paul was inspired. He was inspired by the Philippians church ability to sustain. Shout, sustain. Sustain. Shout, sustain. Sustain. He was inspired by their ability to sustain, because we're in a world that's full of one-day people. Yes, there are few people who are final day people. Yes, he's saying that from the first day that we started this church in Lydia's house until today, this is one church which has managed to sustain its energy. It has managed to sustain its growth. It has managed to sustain its multiplication. It has managed to sustain its dominion. It has managed to sustain its financial abundance. It has managed to sustain its acquisition of property. It has managed to sustain its acquisition of land. It has managed to sustain the blessing. It has managed to sustain its excitement and zeal for Jesus from day one until now. So Paul is inspired by the Philippians' ability to sustain and to stand regardless of what happened. They were still standing, still believing, still sustaining. Yes. In 2013, it's time to stand and sustain, like it was the first day you said, Jesu Waka, I'm giving my life to you. It's time to sustain. Shout, sustain. Sustain. The same January can be frustrating because there are a lot of people who are hollering, saying that 2013 is my year and 2013 is going to be X, Y, and Z. But come February, the people who are noisy in January are quiet because they have failed to sustain what they started started in January, yes, they can't sustain. It is this sustain that we struggle with, which means to keep in existence or to maintain whatever it is that you start. For anything to be sustained, it needs to be supplied with nourishment, which means that when you start something, there is a nourishment factor which you have to apply to the thing you have begun. So if you start it, you've got to feed it. Imagine Rumbi giving birth to Nima and never feeding her from the time she was born. But she had to sustain her baby and feed it with prayer, and feed it with fasting, and feed it with the word. Sustain your goals by feeding them with the power of God. Because if you do not sustain whatever you start, you will not finish. Look at your neighbor and say, I will sustain. Ladies and gentlemen, decisions are seeds. Yes, decisions are seeds. What you decide, you sow. So when you make a decision, you have sown a seed, and that seed is going to have a harvest. But obedience then is the soil that moves a decision from seed to fruit. Your level of obedience decides the level of fruitfulness of the decision you have made. It takes one day to make a decision, but it takes obedience to sustain it every day, so that you can see the fruits of the thing you have decided. So you've made a decision in January, but every day you have to learn how to obey the decision. Shout, obey the decision. I might as well have church by myself. Say, obey your decision.
Obey your decision.
So you've made a decision in January to exercise every day, but you have to obey the decision. Making the decision is easy, but obeying it is difficult. When you set the alarm, don't ignore the alarm, obey the alarm, and get yourself in the gym and work out. Don't be disobedient to your decision. The devil knows that if you ever make the mistake of obeying your decisions every day, you're going to experience fruit on a level like never before. So Paul is telling them in Ephesians that I've made the decision to preach the gospel of Jesus. So even though I'm in jail, jail is not going to make me disobedient. I'm going to obey my decision regardless of the circumstances that I'm facing right now. I have to obey my decision and keep preaching the gospel even though I'm about to die, even though I don't have any money, even though everybody has left me. I'm still going to obey my decision, because my obedience is not on my circumstance. My obedience is based on my character, because of who I am. When I make a decision, I have to see it through. Shout, obey your decision. So in 1 verse 6 now, Paul makes a key statement. He says, be confident. Say, be confident.
Be confident.
Shout, be confident.
Be confident.
He says, be confident of this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you is faithful to complete it. So Paul shows us here the attitude you must have when you're going through a trial, when you're going through hell, when things aren't working out, when your money is funny and people are talking about you, saying you're not going to finish what you've started. Paul shows us the attitude attitude that you must develop. He says, be confident. Get up and believe in yourself. Be confident and say, don't doubt yourself. Lift up your chin. Just because you're going through hell doesn't mean you must walk looking like somebody who supports Man U or Liverpool. You've got to walk looking like you support Barcelona, and lift up your chin and say, I might be going through hell, but you're not going to see it on my face. You're not going to see it on my BPM. You're not going to see it. I feel God will lift you up. When he sees you being confident and say, my child, instead of being sad, they are confident. He'll pick you up and take you where you're supposed to go, because your energy has finished on this level, but your confidence has attracted God. And Paul now says that though it looks like I can finish what I have started, I'm stepping out of the equation and saying, let him who began the work complete it. I am in jail and it looks like I can't complete it. So God has to complete it. God has to show up. God has to bless me. God has to do something. This year I've come to tell you, you've got to lift up all your cares unto Jesus. Cast your burdens, yes, unto Jesus, and let him finish what he started. He who began a good work is faithful to complete it. Paul was saying here, I didn't start this church. You started this church, so you finish it. I